Let's go next to, I don't know. Let's go to Andrew from Cleveland. We haven't heard from Andrew for a bit. What's going on in Cleveland, Andrew?
Hey, what's going on?
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, good, good.
I was just wondering, I've been watching a lot of your videos, and I noticed that when you're analyzing a lot of the candidates for 2020, like Yang and Warren and Sanders, for example, you don't seem to have a huge emphasis on their worldview per se. You're more concerned with their specific policy positions.
Yep.
And so I'm wondering if, when you go to vote, if you think that is going to end up having an effect on your vote, or if you're just only concerned about the outcome of what they're doing, or if their worldview is going to make up your vote in
Well,
the
it's
end.
neither. So you've presented two options, which are I only care about results or I care about their worldview. But there's certainly other options, which are just kind of
Hmm.
recognizing that any of these candidates would significantly improve our relationships with our allies, relationships with which Donald Trump has damaged. So that would be number one, which is that compared to Trump, the U.S. will hopefully go back to having better relationships with other countries and better geopolitical sort of standing position on the
Hmm.
basis of no longer denying climate change as a hoax, for example. So it's all going to be better than with Trump. But I recognize that the majority of what we need to deal with is domestic. That doesn't mean geopolitics don't matter.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean that I don't care if a candidate is looking to start five wars. Obviously, I would be concerned about that. I don't think there's any Democratic candidates right now who are looking to do something like that. So for me right now, we have such acute issues internally that my focus is, given that they will all be better than Trump on international relations, given that I don't see any of them as acute warmongers in a way that's concerning, I'm focused on what is it that they plan to do domestically.
Yeah, I guess I misphrased that. So, for example, right, like Yang identifies as a capitalist and he wants to work within a capitalist system. I guess I meant worldview is more of like their ideological views. Whereas Sanders, for example, would consider himself a democratic socialist and he wants to establish a socialist structure of some kind. But they end up supporting a lot of policies that end up having the same outcome. So I'm guessing if
Well,
that
hold on a second. I
specifically
mean, let's
their
explore that.
ideological worldview
Has Bernie
is
Sanders
going to make up
actually
your vote.
suggested becoming a socialist country? I'm not aware of any particular policies where he has advocated for that. I mean, I know that there's this confusion over democratic socialism versus social democracy, but I'm not aware of Bernie Sanders suggesting
Right.
socializing the means of production and becoming a socialist country.
Mhm. So I guess I meant more just like he identifies as a socialist, whereas Yang identifies as capitalist. And if you sort of analyze, I guess, what their dream political system would be, I think that Sanders leans more towards having a at least social democracy, whereas Yang is sort of just advocating for capitalism that has a lot of checks and balances. And so I think they have like ideologically they would have a lot of disagreements, but on policy they maybe necessarily wouldn't. And Warren is kind of the same way, where you've had that video about how she's a lot less of a she would be a lot less in favor of socialism than someone like Sanders would be. So I'm just asking if that is going to affect your vote, or if you're really not worried about that per se. You're just more worried
Here's why
about.
I'm not. It's not a question of being worried about it. Here's the reality. There's no risk that the United States is going to become a socialist country. There's no risk that the United States is going to go in the direction of
Mhm.
totally unregulated capitalism in the style of a libertarian utopia. So I'm mostly
Okay.
focused on what are the policy ideas. And the truth is that both,
Mhm.
if you actually look at policy, both Bernie Sanders and Andrew Yang are talking about social democracy. When Andrew Yang talks about UBI and healthcare for all, that's social democracy. And yes, he more
Right.
publicly says I am a capitalist. Bernie talks about coming from the school of democratic socialism or social democracy. It's not that I don't care about it. It's that in practice, given what's possible, it's not ultimately how
Mhm.
I'm going to decide who to vote for.
Right. Yeah. See, for me, for example, I'm in the Sanders camp as of right now, and so like when I'm looking at Yang, I'm sort of turned off by him because I feel like he would be less willing to explore some ideas if they border too much into the socialism, section of economics, or economic policy. So, for me, that raises a concern. I was just wondering if it.
But
if
Andrew,
for
I guess
you or if
let's where the rubber meets the road. What's a policy that is a socialistic policy that Bernie would want that you don't think Andrew Yang would be open to?
Oh, okay. Okay. So the first example that comes to mind for me, at least, is when I've heard both of them discuss really in depth their plan for colleges.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I was assuming you were going to go to
in
that.
favor of like vouchers,
Right,
or something like that.
That's the one where I find myself sort of questioning how Andrew Yang came to that conclusion, and I want to talk to him about
Right.
it. But so you
And
and
see,
I
I
are on
would
the
argue
same
that
page
that's
there.
a
I can't think of
capitalist
others
belief.
though.
Well, I mean, I can't really either. I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like in the future, if there were a dialogue on an issue, I guess I'm worried that maybe Yang would be a little hesitant about some things if they were too socialist, or if they, didn't really meet up with his ideology. Like with college, for example. Like when I've heard him talk about it, he talks about how vouchers are, capitalism for humanity, whereas, free college is just socialism that, ends up not working. And I feel like that's maybe an issue, even if largely he supports a lot of the same stuff Sanders does.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that's I just if that's what he said, then I just disagree. Plenty of capitalist countries have no tuition paid through taxation. I'll look into that more, and hopefully I'll get to ask Andrew about it if and when he comes back to the show. Thanks, Andrew. Great to hear from you.
Yep. Have a
All
nice
right,
one.
take care.